What's up, guys? It's your boy Seb, and we are here with episode 12. The King lands in Philly. Yes, you heard it, man. LeBron James is a Philadelphia 76er, bro. Out of all the teams he could have went to, he decided to go to Philly. Who would have thought Philly would have been the ultimate choice? Clippers were trying to get in there last minute. They threw him $20 million to go play in LA for the Clippers, and he was like, no. So just think about that for a second, man. But we're gonna go back to what Rich Paul showed us not that long ago, and we should have caught the hint when it was right in front of our face, right? But we're also gonna talk about the Heat. We're gonna talk about what they're gonna do now that LeBron James is out of the picture. We're gonna talk about the NFL. We're gonna talk about Vita Vea. We're going to get into what the NBA opening night should look like, some potential matchups everybody would want to see. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and get into LeBron stuff, man. Let's put Seb in the corner, bro. Here we go. We look at Rich Paul's board that he had in front of us. And we should have just seen it from the beginning. It was literally, there was a star next to Tyrese Maxey's name. That was the ultimate indicator to know that he was going to Philly. You look at the rest of this board. You look at his other teams that he could have landed. Denver, the Heat, the Cavs, and Minnesota. And then in the corner, you see Steph and Draymond. Which, by the way, side note, Draymond did end up re-signing with Golden State on a one-year deal. It's going to be $27 million. Literally, it's the same deal that he declined. Obviously, he was declining to see if they can pull LeBron in so they can offer him some more money. But that ultimately failed, so he will get signed for a one-year deal. We'll see what happens next season. Maybe he retires. Maybe he signs on a cheaper deal if he wants to stick around and retire in Golden State. But anyways, back to LeBron. He ends up choosing Philadelphia, Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, Jaylen Brown, and Joel Embiid. Now, at first, when he announced that he was going to the Philadelphia 76ers, there were still a couple pieces that needed to be added. And Philadelphia did that. They went ahead and got themselves a 3-and-D wing, a nice shooter, familiar with LeBron James, won a title with LeBron James. They went ahead and got Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. He is going to be a Philadelphia 76er after reaching a buyout with the Memphis Grizzlies, and he's going to join LeBron in Philly, man. So LeBron's already getting the pieces that he needs to elevate the Philadelphia 76ers next year to be a championship contender. But that brings me to my question. Now that LeBron is in Philly, is he a championship contender with this roster? I am very big on LeBron, guys. But when you look at the rest of this roster, I still don't think it'll last throughout the playoffs, right? At hand, you already have, like I said, you have the big four. You got Embiid, you got Jaylen Brown, you got Edgecombe, and you got Maxey. You bring in Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. You have Bona from last season. You also went ahead and added Anthony Simmons for your bench role to come off the bench and obviously be the leading scorer off the bench when all five of these guys are sitting down on the bench. Yes, he will play point guard. Yeah, and LeBron is going to play point guard. And B doesn't need to play all season, but he is healthy. So we could potentially see a Joel Embiid play more than 60 games this season. Who knows? We will see. Obviously, Joel Embiid has his injury history, so it's always subject to change. But the rotation is not the worst. So let's go ahead and let's pull up their roster. Well, that's the Heat's roster. That's the other roster that we're going to look at later. But let's move to the Philadelphia 76ers. Okay. Here we go. This is going to be their official. I was looking on ESPN. Their official roster wasn't up to date. So here we go, right? You got the main guys that we said already. You got a couple of other guys here. They went ahead and got Caleb Love. They got a couple. Actually, now that I'm looking at this roster, I don't think. Oh, okay, it is updated. They got Dean Wade too, and you also have Dean Wade, Jabari Walker. Like, you have a couple of guys on this team, but like, realistically, is this team going to last all 82 games plus a playoff run? None of these guys really have had that championship experience other than LeBron James. But then again, it's LeBron James, right? Personally, I think the favorites coming out the East should still be the New York Knicks, the defending NBA champions, right? Why do I say that? Because if you look at their roster is pretty much the exact same. They lose Mitchell Robinson in free agency to the Boston Celtics, but they went ahead and replaced them with Andre Drummond, who does exactly the same thing. They both rebound. They both play defense. Well, let's be a little realistic here. Mitchell Robinson is definitely a better defender than Andre Drummond, but nonetheless, Andre Drummond does the same main thing that Mitchell Robinson was doing in New York, which is rebounding the ball on the glass offensively and, of course, defensively. Now, can they put together a roster to be competitive enough to get to the Eastern Conference Finals? Of course. Assuming everybody's healthy, of course they can make that run, but you have to look at the other teams coming out of the East as well. You have obviously the Miami Heat could be in contention, obviously with the trade of Giannis Antetokounmpo. You have a couple of other teams that are still gonna have their roster intact, like the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're gonna go ahead and I'm sure they'll re-sign James Harden at some point now that LeBron is completely out of the picture, right? But you also have the Indiana Pacers, who are coming back healthy next season after Tyrese Halliburton obviously was gone for most of the season with his injury from the season prior. So there's a lot of other Eastern Conference teams that are on here that could potentially end the Philadelphia 76ers playoff run, right? But when you're looking at specifically what happens with VJ Edgecombe, obviously everybody was saying with Jaylen Brown, you're already stunting his growth. But now you add LeBron, oh my God, you're going to stunt his growth. Guys, let's be serious. Are we really going to say that LeBron James is stunting the growth of a future NBA star in this league? Come on. We've seen VJ Edgecombe play phenomenal last season. Hold on, I have his stats here somewhere. Or maybe I don't. Oh, yes, I do. Oh, yes. All right. VJ Edgecombe last season, he was averaging 16 points per game, 4.2 assists, 5.6 rebounds, 35% from behind the arc, and 43% from field goal range. Will he have a scoring drop-off? Yes, because you add Jaylen Brown, that's a guy that's going to get you at least 20 every night. You add LeBron, who's obviously not going to stat pad points-wise for most of the season because he can cruise, play point guard, and let the rest of the team score. But he will get you more than 10 points per game. We know that. We know he used to have the longest streak. Well, not that he used to, but he has the longest streak that, you have 10 or more points in the NBA game. He's had that streak. It ended not too long ago, but nonetheless, you also have, like you said, and Tyrese Maxey. Like, this is going to be the year where VJ Edgecombe just kind of has to be a sponge, soak up everything that he can, learning from LeBron James, learning from Jaylen Brown, learning from all of these other guys. That way, when LeBron is finally retired and VJ Edgecombe is back, as one of the main focal points of the team offensively, then you're talking about a team that can make a couple of nice runs down the line, potentially in the finals, winning an NBA championship down the line. I'm not saying that it's not possible with LeBron on the roster. Of course it's possible, but obviously when you have the team go through that experience, through the playoffs, get far enough, maybe, getting to the Eastern Conference Finals back-to-back years before LeBron James ends up retiring, they could be competitive in a championship standpoint in 2 to 3 years, right? But everybody just has to soak up what they can. They have to buy in with LeBron. They have to lock in, and then they really have to get through the playoffs. The playoffs is where a lot of good teams find their true colors. We saw teams collapse like the Detroit Pistons. Last season, we've seen teams ultimately fail even though they were really good throughout the regular season. The regular season's fine and all. You can finish in the top 3, but the playoffs is where, obviously, it's do or die. You have 7 games to win 4. If you don't, you're gone. You're going home. You're done so until next year. So, It's not going to be an easy process to take that step back after, last season you had such a great year, but obviously this is LeBron James. This is the GOAT, okay? If you are not taking a step back for LeBron James for 1 to 2 years, then buddy, you need to get your priorities straight, bro. You're obviously not trying to win an NBA championship. Let's see here. Let's go back to what my prediction will be for this team. So I do think this team will get to the Eastern Conference Finals. It's hard to say that they won't, especially when you look at the team that they've ultimately put together in these last couple of weeks. Jaylen Brown, LeBron James, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Dean Wade, Anthony Simmons, like that. It's a decent team. It's a decent team. I do think they'll get past and get to the Eastern Conference Finals, but can they get to an NBA championship this year or next year? I don't see it happening, bro. I just think the Knicks are too good. I think the Heat, not this season, but the season after, obviously when a lot of their cap is, they get the additional cap money coming in. They have a couple of guys on the way out. They have some more money to fluctuate. Maybe sign a bigger star to play with Giannis and Bam Adebayo, but that's neither here nor there. That's too long from now. But looking at this season only, I don't see them getting to the NBA Finals. I'm sorry. I hate to say it. I love LeBron. You guys know how I feel about LeBron, but I just don't see it happening this season. I don't. It's not realistic for me. I just think that there's still, experience comes into play when you get into the playoffs. And that's something I've always said. Well, dealing with the Miami Heat, like, you've seen the Heat be good and they can get to the finals. Can they do that when, they're underestimated throughout the regular season and, they're kind of like the team that's on the way in looking out? Like, you have to know that once you have that experience, you are better than a lot of teams coming into the NBA playoffs. The Heat have that. The Cavaliers could have had that had they won and closed out versus the Knicks, but they failed. But the Knicks now have that experience. Like, you have these teams that have that experience. The Indiana Pacers, they went to the finals not that long ago. They have that experience. They just had a rough year, obviously, with Tyrese Halliburton out with his injury, like I said before, but they have that experience. There's teams that have championship experience now in the East, so it's not going to be as easy as before, right? But that's my take on LeBron James being a freaking Philadelphia 76ers. But now moving to the Heat's roster. What are the Heat going to do now? Oh, no. Don't give me the ESPN version. Give me this one. What are the Heat going to do now that they don't have LeBron James as an option, right? Obviously, Shams has reported time and time again that the Heat are looking at Klay Thompson. They're looking at guys like DeMar DeRozan. They're looking at Bradley Beal. But the top of the list right now, from what Shams has said, is Klay Thompson. Obviously, Klay Thompson is still on a deal with the Dallas Mavericks. Can a sign and trade happen? I can potentially see it if the Heat ultimately end up wanting to move on from Nikola Jovic. But I don't see that happening. It seems like Giannis and him are going to have a good offseason together. And, maybe Giannis helps him lock in, bro. Maybe he buys into the culture finally. And Pat Riley is just like, I'm going to give you one more chance to get this right with us, right? But who knows? But as of right now, I don't see a sign and trade happening with Klay Thompson. But I can see the Dallas Mavericks and Klay Thompson working out some type of buyout situation. That's what the most thing that's been talked about right now. That's the most likely scenario happening right now. And then that way Klay Thompson could sign with whatever team. More than likely, as of right now, it's the Heat. Who knows? Maybe he could end up back in Golden State. You can't rule out that he might want to retire his last 2 years with Klay and with Draymond and, try and make one more run at it. I mean, obviously, Klay is way past his prime now. He's still one of the greatest shooters of all time, so you have to give him that respect no matter what. But who knows? I don't see him going to any other team other than, like, if it's not Golden State, then it's the Heat. But I wouldn't rule out Golden State as an option. Granted, I know nothing about Klay Thompson and his intentions. I have no ties to anything. That's just my guess. Like, there's a lot of players that are on the way out that like to go back home. Maybe Giannis ends up going back to Milwaukee at some point. Who knows? But I wouldn't rule out the Klay Thompson return to Golden State. But looking at what the Heat should also do as far as filling some other voids, I have a couple of guys that I want to name. Bradley Beal. I've always been against Bradley Beal just because of injury history. He hasn't played a full season in a long time. But we are lacking at the guard position. So I wouldn't be against it if it's on a 1-year vet minimum, right? DeMar DeRozan, a guy like Zach LaVine, who's still under contract, but also, earlier in the offseason, it was rumored a buyout could happen, or maybe a sign and trade with him ends up coming out. Another guy, Russell Westbrook, another guy for our center position, Nick Richards. He's still a free agent. I would love the Heat to get their hands on him. He's over 7 foot. He can block, he can rebound, and he's just another guy that can come off the bench. Because if you look at the roster, right, aside from Bam and Giannis, our front court is going to be Golden, right, who we just re-signed to another deal, right? You have Jovic, right? But he's not going to, do we really want Jovic playing center, right, coming off the bench? No, right? Obviously, we got Bobby Portis. I'm not against Bobby Portis, but he's more of a 4. He plays the 4 more than the 5, in my opinion. And that's really it. You look at the rest, we have more forwards. Andrew Wiggins can always play the 4, but I like him at the 3. Keshad Johnson can always play the 4. We have a lot of forwards, but we don't have another, real center other than Golden. And I'm not going to lie. He's on a 2-way contract for a reason. He really didn't perform all that well in the summer league. He had his, his spurts here and there, but, ultimately, a lot of Heat Nation are really against Golden being on the roster. So we still have a big need at center. We need to get bigger down there. And I do like the Nick Richards addition. I really do think that's a guy that we can land, right? I would also like to see, like I said, I would like to see Bradley Beal if he can get added, but on the veteran minimum. I really don't want to put all our chips in one. I really want to go after some other guys first before we have to settle for Bradley Beal. I love Bradley Beal, as a player. I think he was great, in his prime years with Washington. He's cool, and I would have wanted him on the Heat way back when, but right now, it's just not working out for me, bro. I'm sorry. I mean, he did shoot over 35% from 3-point range last season, which is something that the Heat, not last season, but the last 4 seasons combined. So that is something that the Heat do need. They do need a 3-point shooter, and he can play the 1 and the 2 guard pretty well. So I'm not against it if it's on the cheapest deal possible, and that's a 3rd, 4th option, because the other guys don't work out for us, right? A shot in the dark, and this is a guy that you've heard his name before, and you're gonna be like, what the hell, bro? But listen, just hear me out. Let's go for a guy who can score. He might not be the best defensively, but he can get a bucket. Cam Thomas, bro. This guy is a bucket. Like I said, defensively, it's not the best, but I think when you play for the Heat, I feel like you just get +5 attributes on defense, right? Especially when you're playing with guys like Bam Adebayo and Giannis Antetokounmpo, Andrew Wiggins, Davion Mitchell. You have guys that can defend at most of on your roster. So you don't need the best defender necessarily, but you do need a guy that can score. And granted, Cam Thomas is not going to come in and be a starter, but he could provide 15, 17 points off the bench in a new role with the Miami Heat. So I'm not against him. I mean, this is his stats from the last 42 games that he played last season. 13.5 points. He shot 31% from 3-point range. He shot 40% from field goal percentage. And like I said, he only played in 42 games. So I'm not against adding Cam Thomas either. But obviously there's other guys that I will want before him. I would definitely like Klay Thompson over him. I definitely would like Nick Richards over him. And I'm not against DeRozan or Bradley Beal. And if possibly the Zach LaVine finds his way out of Sacramento and he gets a buyout, I would love the Heat to go after Zach LaVine too. I think that would be a perfect addition. He can shoot. He can rim run. He's great. I would definitely like him added on our team. But I also wouldn't mind giving a shot, giving some of the younger guys a chance to prove themselves at that 1 spot, at that 2 spot. Trey Donaldson, a guy that's from UM. I covered him last season in his senior year when he was playing last year. I went to a couple games for UM covering the basketball games, and he played pretty good, man. One thing that I liked about him, which I think the Heat saw too, was his hustle. He never stopped hustling for the ball. He was always a defender that was like annoying to play against because he was always sticking his hands, trying to get the ball poked out, always diving for loose balls, and that's obviously Heat culture, like 100%. So I really do like that the Heat ended up picking him up for the summer league. We did see him almost get a triple double in the summer league as well. He had a good summer league too. I mean, he had 13 points. He averaged 13 points per game. He had 4 rebounds per game. He had 5.6 assists, and he also had 1.6 steals. He shot 51% on the floor, and he shot 40% from behind the arc. So he can score, he can distribute, he can play defense, and he shoots pretty effectively. So I'm not upset if we were to have Trey Donaldson as our backup guard. I would rather have him than Drew Smith, bro. I'm not going to lie. But another guy that showed out in his short stint in the summer league was Ryan Conwell. Is he on here? Did I pass him already? Oh, he was right next to Trey Donaldson, bro. I'm so blind, bro. Hold on. So Ryan Conwell, in his 4-game stint, he averaged 20 points per game. He had 4 rebounds, 3.3 assists. He was shooting a little bit on the lower end. He shot 41%, and he shot 41% from the floor and 30% from three-point range. So I'm not necessarily against Ryan Conwell as coming off the bench at the 2 spot or maybe at the 3 spot because he is over 6'4". So I'm not against him coming off the bench for us at those positions. I wouldn't mind he diving into the younger guys and letting them figure it out, and hopefully by the playoffs, they're playable in those late game scenarios, in those game time decision, like, when it's time to lock in the playoffs, that home crowd, that away crowd is 10 times different than it is in the regular season. So if those guys can really lock in and prove themselves throughout the regular season, I'm not against them being the guys to rely on in the bench unit. I just really hope the Miami Heat find some way to add another center to this group because like I said, I don't think this Heat roster will do much if we don't have another center to play at the 5 spot. And Eric Spoelstra, he loves playing small ball, bro. We barely saw Khalil Ware. Like, it wasn't until Khalil Ware was crying to get in the starting lineup. No defense, Khalil Ware. I love him too. I didn't mean crying like complaining and stuff like that, but I love that he was tall. He was over 7 foot, a lob threat. He was defensively he was awesome when he wanted to be, and that was just the issue. But nonetheless, I digress. Eric Spoelstra, like I said, he loves to play the small ball, so maybe the Heat go into the season without adding another center, but Pat Riley did say that we did need some size. So I'm not against adding Nick Richards as our backup center for the Miami Heat. Let's see, what is next here? Opening night. Let's see what we got for opening night, bro. So opening night is almost upon us, right? And let's see. Oh, we're gonna get into some. Oh, that's all. No spoilers. No spoilers. No spoilers. No spoilers. Don't look. Close. Everybody, close your eyes, bro. Damn, I don't have it. Whatever. Let's just look at the NBA teams then. All right. What is opening night going to look? What the hell, bro? I don't want no ad, bro. Get the hell out of here. All right. So, what will opening night look like for next season when the NBA starts again? Rumor has it everybody wants Philadelphia at New York opening night. That's gotta be a gimme. Like, they definitely need to make that happen. I'm gonna assume that is the first game that goes on at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, right? But there's also always a second game. So what do we want the second game to be? What are some ideas that I have here? Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, let's just make the tweet ourselves. Is this to make a tweet? let's go here. Let's go. Let's go ahead and make it, bro. NBA opening night. Scenarios we want to see. All right. The first one that I have here, right? Hear me out. OKC at Spurs. Western Conference rematch. We have a rematch of the Western Conference Finals. We have I almost said Kawhi Leonard. Sorry, that was a 2013 Seb that was thinking of those Spurs teams. My bad. OKC at Spurs, the Western Conference Finals rematch. We have Victor Wembanyama at home, defending home court opening night with, the rematch versus OKC, who are coming into San Antonio looking to get a nasty taste that they have out their mouth after losing to the San Antonio Spurs last season. Now, OKC is a very different team. No, not Andrew Wiggins. No Wiggins. They have no Joe, no Isaiah Joe. They have also one of their bigger defensive pieces. They do not have Lou Dort. That team, that roster is very different. I don't know if they're going to be able to compete with San Antonio, but you also can't rule out the former MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, right? SGA. You cannot rule him out, right? Another rematch that I want to see, Spurs at Knicks. NBA Finals rematch. Oh, wow. I completely messed that up. My bad, guys. Dude, how do I keep messing this up, bro? My bad. Everybody wants to see Spurs and Knicks back opening night. Like, come on. You got to give them Spurs and Knicks. But, obviously, we do know it. We could potentially see the 76ers play at the Knicks. But let's just assume we can make whatever scenario we want, right? What we want to do, what Sportswithseb wants to do. I want the Spurs playing in New York opening night for an NBA Finals rematch, right? The next one that I have, we got to have the King returning to LA, right? We got to see Luka and the Lakers take on the former Los Angeles Lakers legend. That's right, I said it. Legend, right? He brought them a chip, an NBA championship, right? LeBron James comes back to LA, plays at LA. You got to play at LA, right? Let me put at. You got to play at LA. You can't play, you can't have the Lakers play at Philly. It's not the same. We got to have the King go to LA, right? The next one that I have here, let's see. Here we go. Minnesota versus at OKC. I want to see Shai and Chet versus LaMelo and Ant. I want to see it, man. I want to see it opening night. I want to see the new duo, LaMelo Ball, Anthony Edwards, no Julius Randle, take on the new look Oklahoma City Thunder, right? That's my next one. Here we go. The one out after. I also still want to see Minnesota, but I want to see them play at San Antonio, right? I want to see them play versus the Spurs, man. I want to see LaMelo and Ant versus Victor. I want to see it happen. I want to see it happen opening night, man. Make it happen, NBA. The NBA team. Make it happen, bro. Make it happen. The next one that I want to see. This is kind of far-fetched. I'm not going to lie. When I was thinking of this is personally biased to me. This is my, like, if Seb got what he wanted, this is what I would see opening night. I want to see Heat play at, actually no, excuse me. It was actually Washington. Well, I just put Wizards. Wizards at Heat. I want to see AD, Trey, AJ versus Bam and Giannis. I want to see it, bro. I want to see it, bro. Make it happen. Bring me the #1 overall pick. Bring me Trae Young. And bring me one of the best defenders in the NBA, Anthony Davis. And let's see them play opening night at Miami versus the new look Miami Heat. Bam Adebayo. Giannis Antetokounmpo. What's up, Xavier, bro? I see you, bro. Sportswithseb is definitely the GOAT, bro. I totally agree. And then the last one that I want to see. And guys, this is assuming this guy is even available opening night, right? Just hear me out here. Raptors versus Heat. Actually, oops. At Heat. Bring me Kawhi and Scotty. I'll just put Barnes, actually. Bring me Scotty Barnes and Kawhi versus Bam and Giannis. Right, let's see it happen. Let's make it happen, bro. Bring me the Toronto Raptors opening night in Miami to play the Miami Heat. We're going to have the two best, I'm going to say it, the two best defensive front courts in the East go at it, bro. Again, this is assuming Kawhi is even playing opening night. But nonetheless, this is the team. These are some of the matchups that I want to see, right? And obviously, just because I want to put it out there for the people who aren't watching the stream, just so they know that I mentioned this, I want to put this one, right? Oh, actually, no. The GOAT takes on the champs. Boom. Because everybody wants to see that, right? Everybody kind of wants to see that one. Put the LeBron t-shirt on. I'm not putting LeBron t-shirt on. All right, so here are the games that we want to see. Just a quick rundown of the NBA teams that we want to see opening night, right? We want to see the 76ers play at New York. We want to see LeBron James take on the defending NBA champions. We want to see OKC versus the San Antonio Spurs. We want to see the Western Conference Finals rematch opening night. That would be sick to put at the 9:30, 10 p.m. slot, right? The other one I want to see the NBA Finals rematch, man. Give me San Antonio at New York, bro. Let's see Jalen Brunson have his rematch with the San Antonio Spurs. All right, the next one that I want to see. The Philadelphia 76ers versus the Los Angeles Lakers in LA. I want to see the King return to LA. I want to see him play the new look LA Lakers and vice versa for the Lakers. I want to see Luka. I want to see what he can do without LeBron, man. Let's see what Austin Reeves is really capable of now that he's not playing off LeBron anymore. So I'm excited to see that one, right? The next one, Minnesota at OKC. I want to see Shea and Chet versus the new duo LaMelo Ball and Anthony Edwards. We know that those two guys are going to be prime television, so give me them on opening night. The next one that we want to see, Minnesota at San Antonio. Again, the new duo, LaMelo, Anthony Edwards versus Victor Wembanyama, right? The next one that we want to see, this one is personal to me. I just want to see it because I just think this would be awesome. I want to see Washington play at Miami opening night. I want to see AD, Trae Young, and AJ, the #1 overall pick. I want to see them play opening night versus the Miami Heat with Bam and Giannis Antetokounmpo, right? And then the last one that we want to see, again, this is assuming Kawhi is clear and he's able to play. I want to see the Raptors play at Miami. I want to see Kawhi Leonard, Scotty Barnes versus Bam Adebayo and Giannis Antetokounmpo. I want to see the two best front courts in the Eastern Conference defensively go at it. I want to see it, bro, opening night, man. So those are just some of the scenarios that we were running through. But yeah, man, I think that would be pretty sick. Let's see. What else do we want to run through? What do we got right now? We got 38 minutes. Okay. Let's move to the NFL now. Let's move to the Vita Vea trade. Can I actually save this draft? Actually, we could just leave it there. Yeah, let's just leave it there. All right, let's go to our bookmarks. Let's go to the Vita Vea trade, man. He officially requested that he wants out of Tampa Bay. What does that mean now? Obviously, the question is, why did he want to leave? Why is he requesting a trade? Well, similar to his former or still teammate, current teammate Baker Mayfield, he wants a long-term extension, man. He wants a deal done. He wants a new deal set in place. And man, this couldn't have came at a worse time because, as you saw in my bookmarks, Jalen Carter just got paid, and he's gonna set the bar for the next contract. So Tampa Bay, if they were already reluctant to re-sign him for a long-term deal, they're even more reluctant now because he's obviously gonna want to be paid more than Jalen Carter, right? But some of the guys that I would like to see. Hold on, let me drink some water. But some of the teams that I would like to see Vita Vea end up on, I just have a couple of names here. The first one that I have is the Baltimore Ravens, right? I think their offense is going to be there every year. You got Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers, Derrick Henry. Like, you have a great offense right now. There's no, we're not worried about the offense coming into next season, but the defense is where they want to see improvement, right? And you have a couple of guys that are on the injury list, right? You have Travis Jones, who's on the PUP list, right? You did just get your Pro Bowler back. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name, but you probably saw his the alert here. I saved it. You got your two-time Pro Bowler back, right, off the injury report. So you do have another DT coming in for your roster to fill the void. But, I mean, can't be against adding Vita Vea. Now, I don't know if the Baltimore Ravens have enough cap money to be able to offer him that long-term extension, but, that's neither here nor there. I'm just giving out teams I would like to see him on. Another team that I would like to see him on is the Chicago Bears. I think him playing alongside Montez Sweat, what the Bears are, they're looking to win right now. I think, if they make a big splash in the trade market and find a way to land Vita Vea and sign him to a long-term deal, I think that defense takes it up another notch, and I do think that makes them clear favorites to win the division if they weren't already favorites to win it this year, right? The next team that I would like to see him on, is the Detroit Lions. Why is this team a scenario? Now, I don't think Vita Vea makes the Detroit Lions automatic championship contenders, but I do think that makes them playoff contenders, right? We did see them drop off a little bit last season, but I do think that they could take advantage of, a couple of opportunities that they're going to have to win that division. Now, I'm not saying they're division contenders at this very moment, but Vita Vea does make them more competitive to win that division. So they could push for a playoff spot. Does he make them Super Bowl contenders? No. Now, can we see a big improvement defensively from that team last season to this season? Yes. We saw Dan Campbell's defense last season. It was not there. It was just terrible. And coming into this season, obviously you have a lot of guys who are coming off hurt. You have a couple of guys who are got into some off-season issues. Your star cornerback no longer with the team right now, so you do have a couple of spots to fill still on the secondary side of things defensively. So there's still a lot of holes to fill, but I do think Vita Vea can push the Detroit Lions to be potential division contenders because the Detroit Lions offense is still going to be pretty good. You still have Laporta, you still got Jahmyr Gibbs, you still have Amar St. Brown, and you also still have Jameson Williams. And you did go ahead and sign Isaiah Pacheco to fill the David Montgomery void. So you still have a decent offense there with Jared Goff. It's just the defense just need to take another step. And I do obviously think Vita Vea does do that for them. And there's also a former coach, the former D-line coach for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last season is now currently the D-line run game coordinator for the Detroit Lions. So they do have a coaching tie there, so we could see, potentially him putting a word in with the rest of Dan Campbell in that front office and potentially push for a Vita Vea trade. Who knows, right? And the last team I want to see him play on, just because I think, you can never rule them out considering all the dark magic that they be doing. The Kansas City Chiefs, man, I would love to see him play next to Chris Jones. I think that would be phenomenal. Now, I do think their cap situation is completely off, man. They definitely don't have the money to do it. But I would love to see that happen if the Kansas City Chiefs can find a way to pull that off, right? Another thing that we wanted to touch on as far as the NFL goes, we did see the Madden NFL ratings come out, right? The 99 overall players for this year. Do I have it out here? Let me see. I'm not sure if I bookmarked it. I want to say I did. Here we go. Here you have the Madden 27.99 overall 99. Excuse me. The Madden NFL 99 overall club. You have a couple of guys here. You have 6 guys here. You have Myles Garrett. You got to give it to him. I agree with this one, right? I agree with him. You got Josh Allen. I'm not sure I'm giving him 99 overall after the stinker that he had in the playoffs versus the Denver Broncos. But hey, who am I? You have Trey McBride. Probably, honestly, the best tight end in the NFL right now. I mean, he had a great season last season. Now that quarterback situation going into this year is probably still going to be a little iffy. So we'll see what happens, if it's going to be Carson Beck, if it's going to be Jacoby Brissett, who knows. But yeah, he's actually getting a lot of hate from the Madden community. They're all saying that Trey McBride should not be a 99 overall, but I actually kind of agree with this. So, I'm not against him being a 99 overall. You also have the offensive player of the year. You have JSN. You also have Matthew Stafford. And you obviously have probably, honestly, the best receiver in the NFL, Jamar Chase. I don't know why I said that. He is the best wide receiver in the NFL, Jamar Chase. So yes, that is a well-deserved 99 overall. I'm not against any of these guys being on this list aside from Josh Allen. And I know you guys are probably just thinking that I'm just hating on him because I'm a Dolphins fan. But no, I'm not. I mean, honestly, you can't give him 99 overall after that stinker he had. And obviously, if I'm thinking about it too, you can't give Matthew Stafford 99 overall either. I'm sorry. I think both of those guys should be in the 97, 96 range. And I just think, we don't want to dilute the 99 overall club. That's a sacred, number to be at in Madden. So I would say let's keep it at least maximum, 4 players, 99 overall club. So I would take out Josh Allen and Matthew Stafford if I had my way. That's just me, though, right? Let's see. What else do we want to look at? And we also want to look at these ugly jerseys that came out for both these teams, right? Let's take a look at this. Here are the Buffalo Bills new. I believe this is the rivalry jersey that came out. I'm not sure how we feel about that, man. Let's see. I know I had some more pictures somewhere. Oh no, I think that was it. Those are terrible, bro. They're so ugly. Look at this, man. This is not even their rivalry uniform. This is just their alternate uniform. This is hideous. This looks like a team builder team on college football, bro. This looks terrible, bro. Absolutely terrible. And then you also have the new jerseys for the Los Angeles Rams. I'm not against these jerseys. These are not the worst jerseys. I think it could be better. Personally, I liked when the colorway when they had the St. Louis Rams. When they were the St. Louis Rams, that beige and that dark blue, I think was just a lot cleaner in my opinion. I just think these colors are just like, they're just off, bro. I'm not a fan of them. I think both of these jerseys are probably going to be some of the worst jersey combinations this season. I'm not going to lie to you, bro. I'm not going to lie to you. And I also will say that about the Dolphins too, man. I'm sick of seeing that bright aqua, man. I want to see a different color. I want to go back to the 2012 uniforms, bro. Bring me back my old orange and aqua, bro. I'm sick of this like neon color, bro. It's terrible. It's terrible. Moving on to the next thing that I wanted to talk about, Baker Mayfield. So Baker Mayfield also is another guy that has been, looking for a deal long term with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? But it seems like contract talks with both of these parties have stalled. They haven't been able to reach an agreement, and he is scheduled to become a free agent in March of next season. So it looks like he's going to be on a prove-it year. Fantasy fans, listen up. Make sure you keep that in mind, bro. Baker Mayfield on a contract year. He has a lot to prove if he wants to get paid by the Bucs and if he wants to possibly get paid by another team. There still are a couple teams who are in need or could be in need of a quarterback, and some of those teams, obviously, the first one that comes to mind for me, the New York Jets. We did see them draft a quarterback. We did see them re-sign Geno Smith, but let's be honest, that is not going to be their long-term solution in New York. So maybe the New York Jets are ready to spend some money at the quarterback position, and maybe Baker Mayfield finds his way over there, right? Another team that could potentially find their way in the Baker Mayfield sweepstakes, if things don't work out with their current quarterback, who they like right now, the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, they signed Daniel Jones to some big money, man. Danny Dimes, he's getting paid right now. But if the Indianapolis Colts and Daniel Jones don't have a great season this year, we could see them potentially moving on from them. I mean, I would say so. I personally wouldn't have even signed him to that big deal that they signed him to after his stint with the New York Giants. But, they took the risk. I mean, he wasn't doing too bad before he got hurt. But honestly, man, I'm not seeing it working out with Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts. So they could be another team that ends up in that sweepstakes. Another team that could be in the sweepstakes, another team that I just mentioned previously, the Arizona Cardinals, man. Let's see what happens, bro. Obviously, they moved on from Kyler Murray. They're playing, with Jacoby Brissett and Carson Beck at the quarterback position as of right now. Carson Beck could still need some time to learn and sit on the bench, and what better way to learn than one of the NFL better, I wouldn't say premier quarterbacks, but one of the NFL star quarterbacks, Baker Mayfield, right? He's had his career on a roller coaster, former top NFL overall pick, drafted by the Cleveland Browns. That stint over there getting cut by the Panthers, finally finding his way with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and making a name for himself, reestablishing himself as a top quarterback in the NFL. But they could also find their way in those sweepstakes, and Carson Beck could potentially be learning from a better quarterback than Jacoby Brissett, right? And then the last team that I want to mention, because I think this is probably one of the more likely teams, the Pittsburgh Steelers. We know Aaron Rodgers is on his last year with the Pittsburgh Steelers and playing in general. If it's not news to you guys, if you guys haven't heard it already, yes, Aaron Rodgers is playing his last year of football this year. Personally, I'm a big Aaron Rodgers fan. I love watching him grow up when he was in Green Bay. I was rooting for him in the Super Bowl when he went. So personally, I would love to see him go out winning it all. But I obviously know that that's not realistic, right? So that brings me to my next segment, which is discussing the Pittsburgh Steelers being possible contenders in the NFL. Can they win their division? Can they find their way in the NFL playoffs and win a Super Bowl? I'm here to say it, folks. I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers will be making the playoffs, man. I'm going to be honest, man. I don't think that they're going to find their way in the playoffs. I think the easiest way to get into the playoffs, obviously, is to win your division. And when you look at their division, you have, obviously, a team that I mentioned earlier, the Baltimore Ravens. And you obviously also have Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, and the Cincinnati Bengals in that division. So that division, to win the division, is going to be a headache in its own. You guys know every year that division is tough. But I don't see the Pittsburgh Steelers really being competitive as far as division titles goes, division contenders goes, because I just think the other two teams are way better. And unless one of their quarterback goes down, God forbid, knock on wood, I just don't see the Steelers being competitive enough and good. And I don't think they have a good enough roster to be able to pull that off. Right. I do think some easy teams that are going to be making the NFL playoffs in the AFC, I'm going to give it off the top of my head. You got to give it to the Chiefs. You got to give it to the Ravens. You got to give it to the Bills. I'm going to say the Patriots low-key have a drop-off year. But I do think they'll still make the playoffs. So I'm going to have the Patriots in there. And then obviously the division with the Indianapolis Colts, the Titans, the Texans, and the Jaguars. Those teams always fluctuate as far as division winners goes, right? I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say the Jaguars find themselves winning the division next season. So I'm going to put them in as well for a playoff team. So that's what? The Chiefs, the Ravens, the Bengals, the Jaguars. Damn, there was another. Let's just pull up the thing, bro. I'm sitting here trying to remember, and I could just pull it up off on my desktop. Let's get the clip right. You know what I mean? You know what I mean, chop. Oh wow, that's super tiny, bro. Let's look at it by conference. What other teams are missing here? None of those teams are going to make it. All right. So let's look at this like that, right? I think that should be good. Yeah. All right. So you look at the teams that are in the AFC right now. This is their record last season, right? I'm going to go out and say the Chiefs come back strong, right? I'm going to say the Chiefs, lock for the playoffs, easy. Chiefs, Ravens, Bills, Jaguars. Those are going to be your 4 division winners, right? And then for the last few spots, what is it? The top what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 6, 7. So the top 7. So the next 3 teams, aside from the Chiefs, Ravens, Bills, and Jaguars, I'm going to say the Bengals. They're going to be 5. I'm going to also say another team from the Chiefs division. I'm going to go ahead and say the Denver Broncos. I think they're obviously going to still have a great year. They could possibly win the division too instead of the Chiefs, but I think both of those teams will definitely make the playoffs. So I'm going to say both of them. And then the last team I'm going to say that finds a way to sneak in, bro, I'm not going to lie to you. I do think the Chargers will sneak in on the last spot. So again, with 3 teams from that division entering the playoffs, I don't see the Texans making the playoffs this year. I think I think CJ Stroud, I think he might be on a downhill, bro. I don't know, bro. I don't know. I was really rooting for him last season because I think he's a better quarterback, or I used to think he was a better quarterback than Jordan Love. But after last season, I don't know. I don't see it anymore, bro. I think that fall off is going to be crazy. So I'm going to go ahead and say that the Chargers, the Broncos, and the Chiefs, the Bengals, the Ravens, the Bills, and the Jaguars make the playoffs. Now, the other team that I could also see sneaking in, like I mentioned in my, a little bit earlier, is the Patriots. I do think they will drop off, but they could sneak in the last spot in the NFL playoffs if the Chargers and the Broncos, Chiefs, obviously depending on how they split their games, obviously plays a factor on if they're eligible to, be ahead of the Patriots. So, well, not eligible because, they don't play in the same division, but you guys know what I mean. The more division games they lose, obviously that affects their record, so their losses could pile up very quickly if they don't win their division games. So, we'll see what happens as far as that goes, but I think that might be the end of today's episode, chat. I think I pretty much touched on everything that I wanted to touch on. We talked about LeBron in Philly adding Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. We have Draymond Green re-signing with the Golden State Warriors. We went over a couple scenarios for NBA opening night. We also talked about what's next for the Miami Heat, what can be going on there. We also talked about the uniforms for the Buffalo Bills and the Rams. We talked about Vita Vea, a couple of scenarios where he can end up, and we also talked about some potential AFC playoff scenarios. Who do we think will make it into the playoffs? And then we also talked about Aaron Rodgers retiring, on his way out. Do the Pittsburgh Steelers actually have a chance to get to the playoffs in Aaron Rodgers' last year? We shall see. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap up today's episode. Spider-Man predictions. I do think Spider-Man is going to suddenly be gone. I think he's going to disappear by the end of the movie. I don't know what happens. I don't know how he disappears or why he disappears, but I do think he's going to disappear from, the universe essentially. And I think to everybody in the Marvel, I think to Ned Leeds and MJ, I think they're going to think that Spider-Man is dead. But yeah. Anyways, that's going to wrap up today's episode 12, The King lands in Philly, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, what can I say? What an episode. But that's going to end the stream. We'll catch you guys in the next one.